Sometimes we spend so much time wondering if we're ready that we miss the opportunity right in front of us. The truth is, leadership doesn't begin when someone gives us permission. It begins the moment we decide to step forward. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Women Who Lead. I'm your host, Teresa Palacios Smith, and I'm so glad you're here today. We're going to be continuing our Next Wave Leader series by introducing three more incredible members of the Berkshire Hathaway Home Services REthink Council. Each has a different story, a different path, a different perspective, but they all have something in common. They've chosen growth over comfort and action over waiting. So now go ahead, grab your cafecito, be ready, because we're going to have a great conversation as we welcome our three REthink members. Adair. So Asia Adair is with us, Holly Darcy, and welcome Grace Stanzel. I'm so excited that all of you are with us today, and I cannot wait to begin our conversation. And one of the things I always ask when I start with our conversation is I want to know about how your journey began, how you decided to get into real estate, where you're located, and what your market is. So I'm going to start with Holly, since she was our first guest on, and find out a little bit about her background. And I know that yours is so interesting too, because you have a spouse who's in the military.
Yes, thank you, Teresa. I'm so excited to be here. I'm Holly Darcy with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Beach Properties of Florida. I live in Destin, Florida, and I always tell people there are a lot of reasons that people want to buy and sell real estate in our area. We are surrounded by a large handful of military installations coupled with some of the most beautiful beaches in the world. We call them the Emerald Coast. And so you can imagine everything from primary residences, second homes to vacation rentals, and all different price points from $250,000 to well over $2.5 million.
Wonderful. And also, how did you get into real estate? What was, what prompted you to choose this career?
Well, the very short version is that I was an elementary school teacher for a short time before having two children. I have two kids, ages 13 and 6 years old. And then I got out of teaching, had children, and just found myself finding my athleticism. I became a personal trainer and started and ran a fitness and nutrition consulting business for over a decade. And that was really, I truly built that business from the ground up. And just one thing led to another. We do have a couple of rental properties that we've, built a small rental portfolio over the years. And real estate has always been an interest of mine. And I kept talking myself out of it for a long time. But just kind of I confided in somebody and asked for some advice at one point when I was kind of at a crossroads in life, and she really gave me the encouragement, and that was really what I needed to just take action and jump right in, and I haven't looked back since.
Oh, that's fantastic. And so you did a lot because you already had your built-in network of spear, of individuals that you had connected with. But I
Oh,
think
yeah.
what's so interesting is I have found this so to be true is that people in the education field love real estate. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just that's such a match with their backgrounds. How about you, Asia?
Well, that's a great segue because I also was a teacher prior to being a realtor. I'm Asia Adair. I'm with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, Drysdale Properties. I service San Francisco and also the East Bay, so Contra Costa and Alameda counties. I've lived in all areas, lived in San Francisco for a long time, and now I'm in Oakland. So I love serving these markets. And yes, before real estate, I was a special education teacher. And I thought that that was my career for life. I grew up thinking about being a teacher and specifically a special ed teacher. I got my master's in special ed and I taught students with extensive support needs and loved that population and that community very much. And then when the pandemic hit, I think a lot of
Mm.
people, it was a period of transition for a lot of people where people stepped back and reflected, and it's very challenging to make a living as a teacher in the Bay Area, to be transparent. And also, I was up against things, not the students, but just administration, things that were burning me out, constantly being an advocate. And my mom's a realtor. She's also with Berkshire Hathaway and has been for almost 20 years. So as I started thinking about this time, I started studying for my real estate license, and I got my license that year in 2021. Sold my first home in March of 2022 while I was still teaching, and then the rest is history. I was full-time real estate agent from that summer forward.
So I love that you're a second generation real estate agent, influenced by, I'm sure, your mother, but also the teaching background. And of course, we got to give a shout out to Gretchen. I just love her, and she's an amazing leader as well. All right, Grace, tell us your story.
Yeah, hi guys. I am so glad to be here with fellow REALTOR members, Holly and Asia. I am based in Omaha, Nebraska with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Ambassador Real Estate, so the Midwest. And I, to be totally transparent, have been around real estate in one essence or another. I call Omaha like the biggest small town you'll ever meet because everyone's paths cross somehow, which is also part of my job that I love very much. But we had a family friends that were in the real estate industry, surrounded by different companies that segue into the real estate industry that, was familiar with. And so I had an opportunity actually my senior year of high school to do an internship with the team that I currently co-lead. And it was forever a life-changing experience. It was something where I got to kind of be behind the scenes and see what went into this work. And I mean, surface level versus the deep dive, it was so uniquely impactful for me. And I then went to college, and freshman year is actually when COVID had struck that spring in our area. And I decided, hey, I'm going to get my real estate license. And I finished school online to get my degree and ended up just going straight into full-time real estate at the same time. So that's kind of my segue journey into real estate.
Well, that's awesome. And also the fact that you're also in Vince's, we got to give Vince
Oh, yes.
a shout
A
out
shout
because
out.
we all know Vince. And then also, who was the team, the name of your team?
Team is Sizek Stork Stanzel Group. So Deb Sizek and Terry Stork, who are two real estate legends in our area and nation in my mind. So yeah.
Fantastic. So big shout out to them for even having that idea of hiring an intern
Yep.
to help. And then obviously it really made a big impact on you that you wanted to become one yourself. So beautiful. So one of the things that I always wonder is when did y'all, because you all are influencers, you really influence your market, you influence the real estate, and now you are a big influence to our own company being part of the REThink Council, which, by the way, when it was started, it was a think tank. So that's where the name comes from, Real Estate Think, without the tank on it. So REThink Council. And so I really wanted to find out, when did you realize first, and what was the scenario that you could really influence others? And I'll start with you, Asia.
Great question. Well, I don't think, I necessarily saw myself as a leader or an influencer, but like thinking back on instances of that, when I was a teacher, my first year teaching as a classroom teacher, I was the school site council president. So I took that role on. And then just like looking back also in high school, I was drama club president and was founder of the Gay Straight Alliance at my school. So I was in these leadership roles, but I didn't really necessarily see myself as a leader or an influencer. I think it wasn't until becoming a real estate agent, it's such a high pressure job and the stakes are very high. And it was like in finding success in this career that I really started to kind of like internalize that as as a part of my identity. So I'm so appreciative to this career for kind of like I don't know, I felt like it's made me come out of my shell and bolster my confidence a lot.
Well, I love that you were already presidents of different organizations, even in high school, which certainly shows that adaptability to become a leader. Holly or Grace, who wants to answer that one next?
Take it.
Okay.
So I think about a couple of things. It's hard for me to pinpoint one specific example, but I think a lot about when we see somebody in a leadership role, that's somebody that we feel like we can maybe go to for advice, or somebody who might be in a sort of a mentoring kind of role. And I think it really has dawned on me in a couple different circumstances over the years. But what stands out to me in real estate is I was tapped on the shoulder for to go through a program that we have at our local board called Leadership Development Council. And I went through that, or excuse me, Leadership Development Program. And I went through that last year. I'm the vice chair for professional development with our local realtor board. But probably the biggest thing is when another agent comes to me and they're asking me for my opinion or some advice on something, whether they're a 20-year veteran or they're brand new. And also when I have a client that comes to me when we're back and forth in negotiations and we're at that decision point, and they're asking me, what would you do in this situation, or what do you think about this? And that's I don't take that lightly. That's a really big responsibility. And so I think that there's a certain level of trust, even if you may not personally know that person, but when you see somebody as a leader, it's that somebody trusts you for some reason and they see something in you. They see some sort of potential, or they see some reason to confide in or ask you for advice. And so a couple different examples there, but it's astounding to me, and I'm
It's
very,
great
very
examples,
grateful for
and
that.
I'm telling you, the NAR's Leadership Academy is amazing, and they
Yes.
really do a great job in training individuals for that
Yes.
next level, and also
Mhm.
not just in their business, but also in leadership roles in the community, which is really important.
Mhm.
And Grace, I'm gonna, how about you?
Yeah, to kind of wrap us up, I mean, echoing what both Asia and Holly have said, I think we have a very important role in this industry, and I think it's if anything, I always want to try and pour into the cup of others, and I think that one of the pivotal moments for me, transparently, I will be a guide or a mentor as needed. Leader's like a weird thing for me to think of completely because I tell every single person, young, new veteran, whatnot, agent, that we know 2% of what there is to know in this industry. We are forever students of this craft. I think that if we aren't learning every single day, we aren't growing, and our clients deserve that continual evolution of our craft here. But I would say I think maybe in my second or third year, I had someone reach out about wanting to do an internship with me. And that was kind of a little bit of like a full circle moment, having started my career as an intern. And now ever since then, I've had five different interns that each have taught me my own situation, like more about myself and how I want to like grow in my role. But it's just been very, very full circle and fulfilling, and to be able to hopefully jumpstart someone else's career in this industry as well. So
Oh, I love that because you're giving back, but you're also learning from that
absolutely.
individual, right?
Yep.
Who's teaching you also, things that you didn't know about yourself. One of the things that I love to know is if you took risks, because a lot of times you are scared to do something, what's one opportunity you said yes to? And this is important because a lot of people are scared to make a move or to do something different. And of course, you all have done something different, like, from teaching to starting your own business to go into real estate, which is, by the way, starting your own business for sure. So, what's on an opportunity that any of you, and this one I'm opening up to whoever wants to answer, that you've said yes to that ended up changing the direction of your career?
Well, I wonder if Grace and Holly, we may have a similar answer in this. I mean, for me, joining the Rethink Council was such a pivotal moment in my real estate career. And it came at a time where I was feeling kind of burnt out and overwhelmed. And, there are so many highs and lows in real estate, and especially as you're kind of starting out and building your business. And I was kind of at a point where I don't know, I was like, I can't believe I'm taking on another thing. But one of my mantras in business is that you should be saying yes to things. And so I did. And then I questioned that decision. But God, I'm so happy that I did. And I questioned that decision when I arrived to the Rethink Council meeting as well. And I was surrounded by like the most rock star agents, you two included, and was just like, do I belong here? But gosh, how much I've learned from that community and other agents who are just making moves in their industries and have so much information and just incredible things that they're doing. So I'm so grateful. And so that's definitely first thing that comes to mind for me.
Oh, I love that. And you surround yourself with other people that are better than you, and that's how you learn, right?
Yes.
So intimidating. What a great answer. Anyone else?
I think I mean, definitely echo that. I think it's important to always like remember, like you are, the compilation of the five people you surround yourself with the most. I firmly believe that, and I'm grateful that I get to surround myself with some pretty incredible individuals. But I'd say one thing for me was bringing on a full-time operations director. That was a risk that I didn't know for sure. Do I give my business that opportunity? Do I not? I'm someone that normally has been risk averse, but I will see like as I've grown in my business, I'm much more open to taking those risks and understanding that it's worth that reward if I work my butt off for it. But I will say I've brought on the most phenomenal operations director. So if you're someone that's gone back and forth, make that right hire, and I promise you, you will have like a dream duo, dream team, whatever you want to call it. It's important to bet on your business because that's how you will grow and ultimately serve your clients better, in my opinion. So.
You need that backup. You need someone to really always have your back.
Yep.
What's one assumption that people often make about the younger, either professional buyer, that you wish people would stop making?
I'll take that one. Um, so I mean, maybe all of us can relate to this, but I think that maybe they might look at my age or maybe even me being a newer agent. But without going into too much of a deep dive, I grew up pretty quickly. I think that adversity and just going through a variety of life experiences and going through all kinds of different challenges and triumphs, it gives you a lot of perspective and wisdom. So that somebody who's just because they're older may not have. And so really I would just tell the person that maybe has that misconception to give me a shot. Let's have a conversation, ask me whatever questions you want. And it's really, I think it goes so far beyond just the age.
Yeah. Yeah. To piggyback off that, when someone asks me, how long have you been doing this? When I meet them for our first tour, I know what they're seeing my age, and I know what they're asking is, can I trust you to guide me through the biggest financial decision of my life? And so I don't take offense at all when someone asks me that. I answer with pride, that I've been in the business for 5 years, and I show with my actions that I'm competent and that I'm going to take great care of them. And I feel like it's a second blip, and it's just like after we spend, 10 minutes together, I can feel the ease. And so that's what they're really asking and wondering is, like what your age, your experience, and can I trust you? And so no offense taken when someone has that concern.
I agree. And I think, yeah, I think just like asking them, like how I said, give me a shot. Just have a conversation. And I think that, we all like that first impression happens pretty quickly. So I think give it a shot. I also think internally, sometimes I remember like when I first got my license, I thought my age was like just sticky noted to my forehead. All people could see. But I think if you have to kind of take a step back and build that confidence internally to then let that show externally so that they can trust you so you're not doubting yourself there as well. So.
And you have
And
so much that you could go ahead. Somebody was going to say.
I was just going to say, and just I think like for us, we're that younger generation of real estate professionals. Like for us, the best way to boost our confidence, and because I think sometimes there's that internal narrative in our heads of, well, I'm young or I'm less experienced than, but education and just getting the reps in, getting the experience and getting comfortable having those difficult conversations every single time you just get better and get grow in confidence. And so I think some of that is, maybe a little bit self-imposed, but just getting out there and doing it and we'll
That's
get through
it, right? Just getting it done and meeting new people and building those relationships, which is really
it.
important. So
Yeah.
one skill that I think is beautiful is the fact that you have grown up with social media and with marketing and with understanding the impact that it has. And, Grace, you kind of started to talk about it. I know Asia commented early on what a great video that you had just created. So let's talk about that because, one of the things that you see more and more how videos really do make a huge difference. I know that with Jimmy Burgess, he talks about it on every opportunity that he has. And so tell me one skill that or social media that you use, and let's get really deep in it that you think is something that is a aha moment for you and that others should be adopting and what that is through. Is it through Facebook? Is it through Instagram? Is it through TikTok? Again, and I'll start with you, Grace, because we were just having that conversation.
Yeah, video is something I feel like over the last year I've gotten extremely intentional about. Intentionality is a very important foundational piece of my business, and it was something that was missing on video and social media in general a little bit. So I was very intentional with my listing videos of I don't want to just be the, basic coming soon. I don't want anyone to expect average out of any of my videos. And so that was something, I mean, primarily because my sellers deserve to have this video hit the market and them be like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. This showcases my house the way I want it showcased. So that was something that was important to me to where every one of my videos is going to be a highlight of that property specifically, not just my business or anything like that. It is for the sellers and the property that they've brought to market. So that's that. But I honestly think social media wise, people just want relatable content. They want, what's going on in your local area? What's a hidden gem? Is there something funny and humorous that like everyone could relate to in the Omaha, Nebraska area? I think tuning into that and not overthinking it, just being your authentic self. I know that's not necessarily a helpful tool or anything, but sometimes taking a step back from being so formatted is good. Let your tone show through the video, let it show through your captions, your comments, whatever it is. People want to work with you and they want to see that online as well. So,
Well, I think what you've done so well is captured the essence of the home, which is really
yeah.
what you want to portray when you are showing a home through the magic of Instagram and social media. So which do you find most successful? Which,
Well, first off, thank you. That was that's the goal. So I'm glad it's coming through that way.
yeah.
I would honestly say Instagram's probably number one. I feel like a lot of my audience is there, but I would say Facebook's a close second. There's some traction there, but I'd say probably Instagram's my number one because I also can kind of show my highlights of behind the scenes through my stories and whatnot, and I know my audience appreciates and feeds off of that too. So.
How about you, Asia?
Yeah, to add to what Grace said about local content, I think using Instagram and TikTok, I don't know if Facebook probably it does, but using the location feature on your videos. So when I do a property tour, or a video about something in my market, I put, San Francisco Bay Area, which is like abroad rather than just one specific city within the San Francisco Bay Area. And just yesterday, I was going door to door with little flyers for my broker's tour neighbor open house. I'm going to have an ice cream cart there tomorrow. So I was just inviting neighbors around my listing. And one of the neighbors said, oh my God, I saw your video yesterday, of this listing. So I don't know, people who are focusing on homes in your area, the algorithm knows. And so that video had maybe 1,000 views, not a ton of views. And I'm like, here I am knocking on someone's door and they've seen it.
Yes.
So I think, regardless of the platform you're on, tagging it to your location helps people in your location see it. And then I totally agree with what you said, Grace, too, about authenticity. That's what keeps people actually watching. So, especially as we're kind of relying on ChatGPT for help with ideas and scripting, you don't want to sound not like yourself. And so, it's really important to have your voice and be authentic in anything that you create.
Well, Jimmy always says quality over quantity. I mean, he always says that's the most important thing. And then, Holly, how about you?
I have lots of thoughts on this, and I've been on social media for a long time with my previous business. That's really how I built my business because at one point I was working with people in 6 different time zones. And so it was very
Wow.
important that I was on social media, able to meet people and connect that way. And I think that talked to a lot of other agents, and I think that so many agents are afraid to get on social media because they're afraid of it looking, not, they want it to be just perfect and polished, and they're worried about so many different things. And I have really leaned into I'm mainly on Instagram and Facebook. I have a LinkedIn and a TikTok, but Instagram and Facebook are where I'm most comfortable. It's where a lot of the people that I'm working with are most comfortable. And so it's been great for lead generation, but also for property marketing. I really think about social media as an extension of myself. And so if you hop on my social media, you're going to find like on Instagram or, pictures of sometimes I might have my hair on top of my head and I'm in my pajamas and sweatpants. And other times I'm, dressed up professionally and, doing a property marketing video. It is something to where I also think about everybody. We are in an era where like there is so more information than we've ever had at our fingertips. And so if we think that, people aren't researching us before they make a hire or decide to interview us, we're wrong. And so I get in front of that and I send them, here's my reviews, here's a bio, essentially my resume, here's everything. I want you to know everything about me. That way, when you meet me in person, it's just another additional introduction because you know a lot about me already. So I wrote down a couple notes before this discussion, and one of the things I wrote down was authenticity. I just think it's really important that we really are who we say we are and don't just tell people that, but show them they can trust us.
That's beautiful. And I know that, for sure, when you show all sides of you, people do feel like they know you. Like, gosh, I know you. And it's also that wall when you first meet someone is gone because now
Mhm.
they like, oh, I've seen you, Asia, I just saw your video. So it was gone instead of you going, oh, I'm, coming to knock on your door because I'm hosting, an open house. And it just automatically, releases that tension of that first interaction. One of the things that I always want to know, because things are changing rapidly, especially with all that's happening in our AI world and real estate. So, what's one skill that you think is going to become even more important for us in real estate, for future leaders over the next 5 years? And that one, go ahead, Holly.
I'll take it. I think the soft skills, just respect, integrity, being able to hold a conversation, being able to look somebody in the eye and communicate effectively. We have, again, just so much information and everybody has access to AI and data and, all of that. But I think that there was a recent interview with Gary Vee on a podcast called Aspire. It's a leadership kind of business podcast. And he was talking about actually, it was a very similar question. And I just think that is something that is going to become more and more obsolete. And I think it's so important to be aware of that. Just doing things the right way and being really steady and consistent in that.
Yeah, I try
Nice.
off that too, honestly. The consistency I think is so important because I think it's easy to get excited about doing this one thing and then do this one thing and nothing happens and then it's like, oh, it didn't work. And it's no, it's like it's going to, you have to give it the time and the consistent effort. So that's one thing I think sometimes we'll miss here and there is if we're doing something that's really great, we don't do it quite long enough or quite consistent enough. It's not going to read through. So some things take a little bit more time and understanding that's important, but I agree, respect, holding a conversation, just polite manners, being human beings, I think is very important, but be consistent with what we're doing. It will work, it will pay off, but you have to trust the process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, like listening is the first thing that comes to mind. So Holly, you saying soft skills, like yes, that I mean, especially in our business, because sometimes people come to you, they don't even know how to start what they want to say. So it's just like taking those cues and being able to lead a conversation and lead a meeting, even when someone doesn't know where they want to go with it. And so that's so key. But in terms of like the digital tools at our fingertips, with AI, it's changing everything, and it's really important to utilize it in your business. And it can be overwhelming knowing where to start. So for people who maybe are kind of just starting off or wondering how to use it as a tool, I think one of the first great things you can do with either Claude or ChatGPT is to ask it about yourself and see how you're presenting online and use it to kind of diagnose like where there might be out of date information online about you as it sources things about you, and also use some of the tools. I think Berkshire Hathaway's created a lot of wonderful tools about how to be search engine optimized in terms of our bios and findable by ChatGPT and Claude and all the bots. You want them to know about you and to be able to share about you because more and more people are using them like Google, to ask them about who to work with in this market. So that would be my first recommendation for utilizing those tools.
Well, I love all these ideas, recommendations, and thoughts because I couldn't agree with you more on both, specifically on the soft tools. I mean, the soft skills, because what I've noticed, and maybe I'm wrong, is that I do see that there's a separation of communication with some people where they don't know how to communicate verbally or on the phone because they are so used to texting, with everything. And so I think that's really a lost art. And I think that it's wonderful that Gary Vee has acknowledged that as well. I know that success is rarely built through one big moment. So it's through small, continuous actions that you can do, consistency. And Grace, you already talked about that. But if I followed you around for a week, what's one daily habit or routine we'd see that has contributed to your success?
I would say probably just like being in touch with my people. That's one thing that's really important. And I think that's something where, I personally like, yes, we go to work and everything, but I would get up every day and I'm like, I'm getting excited for a Monday because it's back to what I get to love to do. So I think being able to like keep a good attitude and not get hung up on the little, challenges or roadblocks that get thrown our way. We're aware of them, the fires that come up in our industry and in our day-to-day job. But that's again the reason that we are looked at and trusted the way we are by our clients is because we are that calm in the storm. And we can't control every single situation, but it's a matter of how we present that and deliver that and solve those situations. So I would say honestly, like consistency is just like staying level-headed and staying approachable and welcoming and being that like trusted source and advisor for my people.
So when you say you love connecting with your people, so
Yeah.
if I were to do you block time off like I'm okay, I'm going to work from 9 to 8 to 10, I'm going to call people or I'm going to at least, send them a text or email. Is that what you're talking about?
I would say my touch points are not necessarily like blocked times of my schedule. Just for me, that was like a forced scenario. I tried that. It came across for me a little bit too forced. So I am someone that my people get happy birthday cards from me. We do house anniversary gifts, like drop offs on the front porch for them. We do pop buys. We do monthly newsletters, client events. We just got done with our summer bash event. So that's my way. I'm just, if I have clients that had a little kiddo or lost a loved one. So things like that, it's consistent through the inconsistencies of life events. So I know that's maybe a little bit back,
That's me too. I
Yeah.
can't
right?
do
I
it.
mean,
I couldn't do it more.
I think that's how life rolls. And, it's
Yeah.
as much as I want to try and structure my day. I do that for the business operations of analyzing our seller reports and activities and buyer searches. But when it comes to being in touch with my people, it's just like I always keep them top of mind of, oh, they had a birthday or, oh, they did that renovation. How's that going? That's kind of my consistency that's slightly inconsistent, but because there's so much of life that's always happening, I feel like I'm always making sure I'm checking in with them.
And that's why they remember you because you're doing it in an authentic way. Holly,
Yeah.
how about you?
Well, I mean, I think that it's related to what Grace said in the sense of I've actually been somebody who is very structured. I don't know, where that comes from, but it's maybe just out of necessity. I'm somebody who maybe even is a little bit rigid and has previously been inflexible of like, this is my schedule, this is what I have going on, and I need to. But real estate is, I think, between military spouse life and real estate I have become able to definitely handle, being a lot more flexible. And because my day could look one way or my, week could look one way. And then I get one phone call and that looks totally different all of a sudden. And so it has made me stronger personally and professionally. Just being able to be that much more adaptable and resilient and flexible in that way.
And I can imagine with that military background with your husband
Oh yeah.
that you have to run a tight ship.
Yeah.
It's part of that type
Yeah.
of mental attitude.
Mhm.
And then how about you, Asia? What's one thing that you do that has contributed to your success?
Yeah, I think my answer is a little similar to Grace's about staying in touch with your people. Like, it's the ninja saying, what you focus on expands. And so for me, it's like it's taking notes. So for every client that I meet with, seller consultation, buyer consultation, or even just like someone in my sphere, I have a file on them and if there's someone who's pretty active with me, it's on my desktop in the form of a little digital sticky note. And during our conversations, I take notes or jot a couple things down after talking to them. I keep track of my warm and hot lists and my actives, my pendings, so that, I'm always have people's names in front of my mind, even on my cell phone. There's the opportunity to pin conversations. I will do that for myself to be like, okay, not right now, but remember to come back there. And I think in doing that, I mean, it's a simple thing, but we're spread so thin. We are managing so many different things in our business, and we've got a lot of balls in the air. And if you don't write things down, you will forget. And to be like really great about keeping in touch with your people, following up, you need to have that frame of reference, and you need to have their names somewhere where you're returning to them all the time. Or if things aren't if you need to pivot, going back in notes is so helpful, and saying, oh, they said that thing back there, maybe we can change our strategy. So I think note taking and keeping lists is a really important.
I
um,
like that digital notes. I have to talk to you about that. That's kind of cool. So,
Mhm.
what's one AI tool, app, or social media strategy, business system, or productivity tip that is really helping you work smarter and grow your business right now? And let's get deep and specific, like it's an app, platform, strategy that really others, and don't use the normal like chat. I mean, I want something that you found is unique and you're like, oh my God, this is really amazing. And I'm using it and I've gotten 5 leads from it, or it's able to save an hour from something, that used to take, now it takes me 5 minutes to do.
I can take that. I mean, I don't think this is unique. I think a lot of agents are doing it, but there's a reason, property tours on social media work. And especially using that hyperlocal feature that I talked about, being being able to have that geographic, so people can find you, and then being authentic in those videos, doing it within your own voice. When people are searching out in the market, their algorithm knows, and I have gotten leads where some people, it's a further out thing, they're not quite ready, but even on videos that aren't getting a tons of views, I have people reach out to me and say, I saw your property tour, I'm interested in seeing that, or I've been thinking about buying. And so that's where millennials are, is Instagram. And so if you are findable on Instagram, and are targeting the algorithm, you will get leads that way. And so I think if you're not using video in a hyper local way, start doing it, because real buyers and sellers find you.
And they send you a message like through digital. Did they?
Yeah, so I think it's also having landing pages on your social media where it's easy to take that next step. For me, I have a link tree on my on all of my social media where someone can click. There's a Calendly link that is synced with my personal calendar, and people can schedule a 15-minute Zoom call with me, without talking to me. They can do all that themselves. Sometimes it's someone leaves a comment or sends a message, and it's following up with them that way, and then directing them to that link. But having it be seamless and taking away that barrier to making the meeting, which is like the next step, is key, so that you can
So
take it there.
you're able to capture these leads because you've got links set up that allow you to get that lead opportunity. That's very brilliant. I love that. Holly, how about
Yeah.
you?
I have a lot of different ideas about this, but I think the one that is standing out the most to me, there's a lot of things that we do in business that we try it and we see what's working, what's not, or this was working, now it's not. Something I'm really enjoying lately actually came up at one of our REThink Council meetings, and I can't remember who it was that brought it up. But really, it's just bringing a resume. But this is something I've kind of done in a different way. It's essentially, I call it my bio. But if I'm having a conversation, maybe I've connected with somebody in a Facebook group or over Instagram, or another agent is reaching out to me for a referral, I send them, it's just, I have it saved in my images and I have it saved on my PDFs. It's a one page. I have a picture of me, a headshot. I have a picture of my family. I have a couple of just, stats and affiliations, and just a little bit of, even have a little bit of personal interest, but it's just kind of a one page intro. It's technological, but it's very easy to send, and it gives people a very quick intro, and they can kind of look at that and go, okay, I want to keep talking to this person, or maybe not, but it's just a really easy, very practical way for me to be consistent and connect with people. I think it's been very helpful.
Wonderful. And Grace.
Love both of those ideas, you guys. I would say mine is just a little bit of a plug for fillout.com. I shared this at I think our most recent Rethink Zoom that we had. It's silly, but it's one of those things where I do a monthly newsletter, and on there I do a giveaway on the back, like a gift from Grace every month, or some fun thing. And so I scan that QR code and it goes to this website. I also do it for all my events. So summer bash invites we just sent out, there's a QR code. It takes them to fillout.com, and that's basically where like I do my giveaway registrations, I do my event RSVPs. They have so many different templates. I have my buyer questionnaire on there. I mean, really just any form of a online thing that you could think that like a Google form would do lives in fillout.com. But I'd say like times 10. So I love it. I can kind of
That's
break
a new one for me.
it was a good find of ours, and I'm glad we did, because it really does streamline everything, and it then allows us to, make sure we're staying up to date with all of our client information and all of that. And it's very easy to use, in my opinion, because it doesn't require them to sign into a Google account like a Google form would. So I feel we're getting better return ratios on, people filling those out. So
Oh, that's a new one for me that I had not wasn't familiar with. So I like that. All right, we're almost done. Can you believe that this has been so much
time
fun?
is flying.
I know.
So one question I have is one of the things that we find right now that the age for buying has increased to now being 40, according to the National Association of Realtors' latest statistics. And so I know a lot of it has to do with price range because it's difficult to buy a home and it's almost gotten difficult, from a affordability standpoint. But I know that also a lot of younger, 25-year-olds want to buy other toys or take trips, instead of, investing in real estate. So what would you want them to understand about the power of starting early?
I'll take
This
that
is
one.
okay.
I would show them first. I would share my story. We bought our first house in 2010 and we still own that home. It's a stepping stone and it's definitely changed. It's definitely been a positive, had a majorly positive impact on for me, my husband, and my family. Um, we've also gone on to purchase a couple of additional rental properties. So I would just tell them my story, and I would show them how real estate appreciates over time. It is it's not timing the market, but time in the market. And I would really just show them. I probably hop on what is it, the sales price index that comes out quarterly, and show them, if you bought a house 10 years ago in this zip code and what that would really look like, fast forward 10 years, because you can't argue with that.
You cannot. You cannot.
I agree. Yeah, I think putting like stats are definitely helpful because it's black and white. You can't judge that necessarily. But I think, in my opinion, I'm always one, if I have someone that is a first time buyer, that's younger, and eager to learn more about it, I even like stop them at that and let them know like that. Huge props to them, because that's a hard conversation to approach. Sometimes it's overwhelming. There's a lot to it, especially being completely green to this entire process. So it's a lot to take in. And as Holly mentioned earlier, like there's so much educational access for our industry. So I think we have to make sure we're always, staying like letting those buyers know, like, congratulations to you for even being in a position to have this conversation. So letting them know you're on their team, that's very important. But letting them also be aware this might not be a 3-4 month thing. We might be in a 2-year process, and that's
Yeah.
okay. We need to find a lender that you trust wholeheartedly to have those hard conversations, ask those uncomfortable questions. But at the end of the day, feel like you have that right teammate on the lending side. But I think, letting them know they have people to support them to get them to that finish line. It might be in 2 months, it might be in 2 years, and that's completely fine because, as we always will say, we're at their timeline. So that's kind of how I would approach that, is letting them know like it's not going to be maybe a tomorrow thing. Maybe it is, maybe it's not, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I always say it's the house before the home. I mean, before
Yeah.
the car, before the car, because they always want to buy a car and it's going to be their dream car. I'm like, buy an inexpensive car and save it for the house because that house is going to give you money back.
Mhm.
That car, you're going to lose money in.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
and you're paying your own mortgage, not someone else's rent.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
definitely something. All right, as we end. I always want to know what is one book, a podcast, a quote, or something that really guides your everyday and has influenced your life or career. Because we always want to leave somebody with something that they can also then go back and say, I want to buy this book, or, this is a podcast I'm going to follow. Um, Holly, how about you first?
Okay, I'll share two. I have a book and a quote. So one book that I read very, very early on, maybe even pre-licensing, was a book called Shift. The name of the author is escaping me, but great book. Really helped me understand that the market shifts, and that is what happens. And then the quote is something that's just always stuck with me for as long as I can remember. It's just that people always remember the way that you treat them. And so I really try to embrace every, new connection in that way. Just remember that that first impression is everything, and people always remember the way that you treat them.
That's so true. I love that. And then you also mentioned the podcast that Gary Vee was on.
That podcast it's hosted by Emma Grede, Grede. She has
Okay.
a couple of different businesses, a jean company and some other things, but her podcast is called Aspire. I have all kinds of podcast recommendations. If anybody wants to find me, I can give you 20.
Perfect. I like that one. All right, Grace.
My favorite quote is a Henry Ford quote of whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Um, I've lived by this for pretty much my entire real estate career, especially, getting into it and being very up against a wall in my own brain about, age, experience, all those things. So, I put my head down and I work my butt off every single day for my clients, to make sure that their experience comes out as the best possible ever. But again, it comes down to if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So it starts internally, and I have to make sure I can wake up every single day with positive mindset and know that I'm going to approach every single situation with the I think I can mindset. So yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. So, Asia, I'm going to close with you.
Well, I have a guiding principle to share in my business. My guiding principle is give more than you expect to get. That's something that that's always been a guiding principle in my life throughout my careers. And I've found that the more you give to people without expecting to receive in return, the more comes back to you. So, especially in this business where not every conversation is going to lead to a closed transaction. And yet, the more you give to people, your time, your knowledge, your caring, the more people want to work with you, and the universe really does give it back.
I love that. I think that's part of the Go Giver book because I
Right.
remember that.
I love that book. I love that book.
Yeah. So I think that's definitely one of the quotes in there. I think that is a beautiful, all of you. One of the things that I've learned today from today's conversation is that I'm extremely helpful, not because of technology that you've shared, not because of AI, not because of the social media you've talked about, but because of the people who are willing to learn, adapt, and continue growing. And that's all of you. You have really shared so much of yourselves and reminded us that leadership isn't something we wait for, it's something we practice. One conversation, one decision, one courageous step at a time. Thank you for sharing your stories, your wisdom, your experiences, and also your willingness to encourage others, because I think that's what's so important today, and sharing what you know with others that want to follow you and that are influenced by what you do. And thank you all for joining us today. If today's conversation inspired you in any way, challenged you, or gave you a new idea to put into action, I hope you'll share it with someone else. We'll see you on August 12th again as we conclude the Next Wave Leader Series with 4 more remarkable members of the Berkshire Hathaway Home Services REthink Council. We'll round out the whole group. Until then, everyone, keep building, keep leading, keep creating the kind of impact that lasts, because your voice really matters, your leadership matters, and the work you're doing matters more than you know. Bye bye, everyone. I'm Teresa Palacios Smith, and this has been